So the gospel passage that's going to be read this Sunday is incredible. I mean, it literally has 3 ideas contained within this one passage in the gospel that changed my life. All 3 of them changed my life. There's not hyperbole. It's not an exaggeration. Like, all 3 of them literally transformed my life. So I listened to this and I'm like, I could spend days talking about each one of them. Not only personally, but the rich history within the church and within the spiritual masters within the church and how they talk about each section of this one gospel passage. But I'm going to go over each of the 3 sections and share just briefly with you the idea that changed my life in the hopes that it blesses you in some capacity. The first one is liar, lunatic, or Lord. So it's this famous scene where Jesus is walking with the disciples and he's like, who do people say that I am? And Peter says, you're the Christ and you're the Messiah. And Jesus says, basically, yes, I am. And it's this idea that we all have to answer that question. Jesus is literally the most famous person in all of history. Like, he is the most famous person in all of history. Every person on earth at some point or another, unless you're really off the grid, has to answer this question. Who is Jesus? Who is he? Is he a liar? Is he not who he says he is? Is he a lunatic? Does he believe who he says he is, but he's not actually that? Or is he exactly who he says he is? Is he Lord? Is Jesus Lord? The second one is love sometimes requires rebuking. It's often overlooked, but right after Peter says that you're the Messiah, you're the Christ, he rebukes Jesus, or he tries to rebuke Jesus, because Jesus is like, I'm going to suffer and die. And Peter is like, God forbid that happens. And Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. What a strange thing to say to the person that you're about to give the keys to the church to. Get behind me, Satan. It's this idea that anything that stands between you and the mission of God needs to get behind you. Anything and everyone who stands between you and a deep and abiding relationship with God needs to get behind you. And love demands that. Love demands that everything that draws you away from God needs to be behind you. All right, the third one of my favorites. It's this idea that suffering is a necessary part of the journey to become who God made you to be. It's necessary for you to suffer. One of the most famous scripture passages to quote is Jeremiah, for I know I have good plans for you, right? We often think that good plans automatically equates to comfort and joy and getting what we want. But walking with Jesus is not that. Walking with Jesus is not that we just get whatever we want or that we get to live a comfortable life or anything along those lines. It's this idea that when you start following Jesus, you need to pick up your cross. You need to pick up your shortcomings. You need to pick up the difficult things that you need to do in order to follow God. You need to deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow him wherever he leads. There's this notion that conforming your life to Christ is sort of a loss of freedom. And in a sense it is. But in a much more important sense, when you start giving your life over to the highest good conceivable, which is what Jesus is, you get your life back in return in an astounding way. Whoever saves his life will lose it. Whoever loses his life for my sake will gain it to the full. It's a powerful mystery, but it's a necessary mystery. Suffering embraced, suffering suffered well, leads to a life of deep meaning and lasting impact. So when you go to Mass on Sunday, I mean, you could spend a lifetime unpacking these things, but when you go to Mass this Sunday, meditate on one of the 3. Think about one of them that God is calling you to really meditate on and really try to adopt in your life. Do you need to make a decision on whether he's liar, lunatic, or Lord? Do you need to give your life to him in a new way? Do you need to rebuke the things that are standing between you and him? What is God calling you to, and really immerse yourself in just one of those 3 life-changing teachings from Jesus? May God bless you.